Good afternoon and welcome. Today we're going to be painting a scene from Prague in the Czech Republic, but before we get started, if you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up, and if you like what you see, consider subscribing. I'm going to have 3 to 4 videos coming out per week, and if you really like what you see, all of these demos are for sale. The link to my store is in the description of this video. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to put our reference photo over here on the right-hand side so you can take a look. Today's scene is going to be a little bit different. I've got some trolleys set up here. This is kind of an iconic look for Prague, and our reference photo is a little grayed out, but again, we're just going to be using that for the architectural kind of details and the overall setting. The time of day, shadows, temperature, all that stuff, we're going to kind of work as we move along through the painting. I want to keep it warm, bright, and sunny, and yeah, other than that, let's just have a good time. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to spray a little water here on the paper. I've gone ahead and sprayed my palette just to get things working. And what we're going to do, since this is a sunny scene, I'm going to take just some pure water here, and we're going to go ahead and just wet our paper. This will just help retain a lot of the light and make sure we don't get anything too dark. All right. I think I'm going to have this sky a little warm. Let's grab a little Cobalt Blue. As you can see, my palette's pretty dirty. I really never clean it. I'm going to grab some burnt sienna here. A little more cobalt. It's pretty thick, but again, since we wet our paper, it should lighten a good bit for us. All right, let's warm it up on there. Let's see. Let's just pull that through there. That looks pretty good. Let's warm it up as we move down into the bottom area here. We'll have kind of a gradient wash. Yeah, something like that looks nice. Now, I am going to have a roof here that stays in the light. So let's do, I want it to be warmer. I'm going to grab some burnt sienna, a little Mayan Orange. Let's use that color and just pull that through there. And let's just keep working our way down the paper here. Now, I'm not going to be worried about too much down in these buildings because they're all going to be painted over in our second wash. So I can really just kind of cover them up. I'm going to pull just straight water through here to help maintain some light. And let's work on our foreground. We're going to match the sky. We're going to keep things warm. Okay, let's just throw that on there. See if we'll neutralize it a little bit. And as we work down the page, as always, we're going to darken things up. It's a little ultramarine blue, a little neutral tint. Okay. Always start darkening your foregrounds a little sooner than you think you should, because that water and gravity is going to pull all the pigment down. If I wait to start till about here, I won't have anything left to darken. It'll all pull down. I'm just going to grab straight neutral tint. Yeah. All right. That looks pretty good so far. I'm going to grab my paper towel here and just dab a couple of areas that I want to have lighter for later. I'm going to dab a couple of figures, maybe the windshield of these trams and trolleys. Do a couple of dabs through here. Yeah, I think that looks nice. Clean off that bottom line. All right, let's let this dry, and we're going to come back and start our second wash. All right, we are back. This is now completely dry, so we're going to go ahead and get started on our second wash. Now, the first thing we're going to do are going to be these buildings in the distance. We're going to work with what's furthest away and then end up with what's going to be closest. So I want these to be lighter than what's in front, but I also want them to be a little softer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up this part of our paper and give it a little bit of an extra spray up here near the top. And what that's going to do, I can spray the rest of our paper, but what that's going to do is when I put paint to paper here, I'm just going to grab a little bit and I can show you, but it's going to, see how it bleeds a little bit like that? It's going to help keep things softer in the background. So let's do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cool this down, and let's work on these towers back here. And again, even though they're in the distance, if I can, I may leave just a few gaps of light in there. Yeah, we're going to keep them pretty cool. Like that. Thicken it up a little towards the top, just to add a little interest. Grab my smaller brush here. Just pick up some of that neutral gray. I'll put a little antenna on there. You know what? Just to make it a little bit smoother, I'm going to outline that roof there. I think that looks nicer. Okay, let's see. Yep, still going to keep it cool over here. That could maybe use a touch more water. I'm going to give that a little spray. All right. Let's keep working here. Again, I'm just thinking about keeping this light, keeping it on the cooler side of things. All right. That looks nice. Let's work. Put that tip on there. There we go. All right. That looks very nice. Okay, let's sharpen up that roof line there. Perfect. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we've got, I guess you can think of it as 3 layers of buildings. We've got these 2 towers are level 1. They're going to be furthest in the back. Level 2 is going to be kind of this shape here, and then level 3 is going to be our front buildings. So I'm going to gradually get darker and darker. So I'm going to get a little ultramarine there, a little yellow ochre and burnt sienna. I want to darken and warm things up as we get closer to our subject here. And what I also want to do is I'm going to leave a gap of light when I do the outline of this roof. It'll make more sense here in a minute. I'm going to spray our paper again. I want to make sure that our paper is nice and wet. And we're going to work into this shape here. Yeah, right like that. Okay. I'm just squinting my eyes, trying to make sure my tones are fairly accurate. I'm going to grab just a little clean water and pull it over there, just to kind of get that sort of nice fade. Maybe add a couple of, could be some other buildings off there in the distance. Add a little something there and there. Yep. Maybe dot something through here. Again, this is pretty wet, so that probably won't even show up, which is fine. Again, it's in the distance, so I'm not too concerned about it. I do want to work on this roof line just a little bit. I want to try to keep this a little bit straighter. It was a little off. Okay, that looks nice. Now, we're going to move down into our very front scene here. So this is going to need to get pretty dark. All right, let's grab some ultramarine, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, neutral tint. And let's just work through here. I'm just going to take and pull it straight across there. We're just going to start building off of that. And that's what I meant earlier when I said I wanted to keep kind of a roof outline here. Yeah, something like that. I'm going to keep this somewhat abstract. I'm going to add some pure water in there. Now that we've got that light area, we need to darken things back up. Again, this is up front, so it's going to need to be pretty bold. Let's grab some cobalt. Yeah, just trying to vary things in here. And you know what? As I'm looking at this building and this building are almost the exact same tone. I'm going to need to lighten this building back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop some water on there and let it kind of pull down into this front structure here. Let's grab some warm colors, some neutral tint, and let's keep working along. Okay. So far this is coming along very nicely. And again, You see all these gaps of light. I'm trying to give a very sort of abstract feel, and it's going to help give the illusion of detail. Put a couple of vertical lines there. Now, we're getting close to our main subject area here. I'm going to put a few more dark bits of paint, and then I'm going to have to start being very careful. I've got some little cut out, I'm going to put some awnings and things back here, but for the time being, what we're going to do, let's warm this up. I got to be careful to cut around this trolley or tram here. All right, again, it's near the bottom. Once we get to the bottom of these buildings, we're really wanting that contrast to show through. So I'm grabbing almost pure neutral tint here. And we're going to start to trace these shapes out. All right. I'm going to put some abstract in there. Maybe a little bit coming through here. And what I'm going to do, let's cut that out. So I'm going to take my paper towel and come back and lighten things up a little bit as well. Okay, just creating some vertical lines. All right, let's grab our paper towel here. Let's lighten some of this up, just a touch through there. Okay, that looks nice. I'm going to grab some neutral tint. Let's put a roof line on here. Again, I want to be doing this while this is nice and wet, so it'll kind of melt down. And I'll do the same thing here, just a little bit lighter in tone. Yep, right like that. Oh, I think that looks pretty nice. Squinting here, I want to add a little bit of dark paint to that area. I'm going to pick up some Mayan Orange, some neutral tint, and just throw something in there. Make it a little interesting. And again, I'm going to leave that alone. It's going to bleed in and you'll probably hardly notice it. All right, now we're getting down to the fun stuff. We're going to start with this tram. Now what I want to do, I'm going to leave a little strip of light along the top of it, and then I want to leave those windows cut out as well. The strip along the top is going to help illustrate that it's in light, and I'm going to let it bleed into the other areas off to the sides here. Okay, got to be very careful. And I'm just grabbing, this is some Mayan Orange. I've got a little trolley light thing over here. I don't normally paint this, but it's funny, a lot of the European countries have these, and so I do need to work on painting these. All right, now there were some windows down the side here, so I'm going to just pull some vertical lines. We'll darken it up in the same way we do cars, right? As we get closer to the bottom, things darken up. That same philosophy is going to apply here. All right, so we'll grab Mayan Orange, pull down underneath, and I'm going to connect it to this dark shape over here. I want things to connect and bleed together, right? Let's grab some burnt sienna, neutral tint. We're going to darken it up as we come down here. And I was careful around the windows, but I want to try to move that brush quickly to kind of get some abstract features in there, okay? Let's give this another spray. I want to keep this nice and wet. All right. Looks okay so far. Now, let's see. What do I want to do with these windows here? We've got a decent shape of our tram going here, but I don't know. I don't like this window being just completely white like that. So I'm going to take some dirty water and pull it through like that. Okay, and we'll come back to it. I'm still not completely happy there. Let's work this other tram over here. Okay. And again, I'm going to have it melt into the sides there. Let's grab our darker pigment, grab some neutral tint. Yeah. All right, we're moving along here. This is, I'm just adding some abstract colors and shapes here. So much of watercolor is being able to, you're kind of faking detail. It's really difficult if you try to paint every little thing. I'm going to put a blot of paint and just get some pure water and just have it kind of bleed over, something like that, I think. Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing here. Add a little more water. Those windows were just a little too kind of stark in their contrast. All right, I think we're looking okay. I'm going to grab this brush here, and that paint's too wet. I can't scratch any lines or anything yet. Maybe up here? Almost. That's okay. How's this looking? Wow, everything's still pretty wet. That's good. I'm going to pull some of that water down. Just using my brush there. All right, let's work on our shadows here. Now, and when I say shadows, just our trolleys first. We're going to cool it down. I want to have some distinction between the warmth of the trolleys and the coolness of the shadows underneath. We're going to have the sun coming from right to left here. So I'm just going to kind of pull that out to the side there. Something like that. We'll do the same thing here. Yep. That's not too bad. I want to see if I can maybe scratch. No, it's still too wet. That's okay. Pull some wheels down. Yeah, something like that. Okay. That's not too bad. Let's work on our figures here. We've got our two big trolleys set up. Let's work on these figures on the left. The first individual is going to be walking kind of across the street here. I'm going to grab some, this is Cerulean. Mix it in there just to neutralize it a touch. Darken that up there. Just to give him kind of a light colored shirt. We'll grab some burnt sienna. All right, and then we'll go for that neutral tint. Very striking, very strong on the lower half of the body there. All right, and again, he's walking across the street, so we're going to have the legs kind of splayed out, one in front, one in back. All right, that's not too bad. I'm going to add a figure back here, just very abstractly. Let's do this front figure. This front figure is walking towards us. Let's do, I'm going to put just a little spot of gray. I'm going to give this person a jacket. I'm going to grab some clean water, grab our burnt sienna, work on a little face so that it kind of bleeds into the rest of the body there. And again, I'm not going to draw straight. I'm going to suggest legs, right? I don't want to just draw two sticks. I want to leave little gaps, okay? I'm going to give this person a jacket too. They're walking kind of towards us here. All right, that's not too bad. Let's add a little water to this person. I want to try to fade those pants out a little bit. Okay. And we've got a group of people over here. I'm going to try to paint these. You know what I may do, actually? I definitely want the figures on the left to be a little bit more powerful. I want them to be able to balance out that dark trolley there on the right. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to grab some paint. we're just gonna make sure it's nice and dark, and we're gonna really abstract these people, and we're gonna have a group of people maybe getting ready to get on that bus there. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm going to grab this and scrape some of that paint there to lighten him up. Add a couple of dots of paint there just to add a little interest. All right, we're coming along here. Slowly but surely. All right, let's add some shadows. Let's do, and again, we're going to keep them cool to try and match those trolley shadows, even though they really didn't turn out that cool now that I'm looking at them, but that's all right. All right, again, sun is right to left. We're going to keep our shadows pretty small. All right, just a little something there to anchor them to the ground. That's a little wet. A couple of lines back there. Dabbing that out a little bit there. Okay. All right. Let's see. What else? I want to add some visual lines here. I'm going to grab some of that gray and some of that burnt sienna. What I want to do is there's this kind of like something like that. I did not mean to pull through that shadow. We're going to have to fix that. Let's see what we can do here. If you can get it while it's still wet, that is not a problem. Let's start just outside that shadow. Yeah, something like that. Trying to get some kind of trolley track lines going here. Maybe not the perfect perspective lines there, but that's okay. It's all about just having fun. Okay, that's not too shabby. Now our background should be drying pretty good here, so I'm going to throw in a couple of windows while this is still nice and wet. Something like that. Looks fine. What else? Maybe a little bit of some darker areas on that trolley there. Again, this is not a shape I'm familiar with, so I'm just trying to keep it fairly simple. What to add next? I think this foreground here is a little barren, and so I want to add a shadow to try and kind of frame up the rest of our painting. So I'm going to get a little neutral tint, a little cobalt blue, a little burnt sienna, and then I'm just going to work here, and I'm just going to put in a shadow right in the front there. Okay. Just to help frame up that painting, and I'm going to add, you know, some more color to it to make it a bit more interesting, but yeah. I'll let that bleed for just a minute. I'll probably come through and soften it up with the paper towel here. But I don't know, I just thought it needed a little something. Yeah. There we go. The angle looked funny. I think that looks better. Yeah, just a little something there. All right, let's work those kind of lead in trolley lines again and make sure they're kind of fading into that shadow. Yeah, that's just fine. Again, this one got so dark because that shadow's bleeding into it, but that's okay. All right. Let's do, this paint should be dry enough that I can scratch a couple of vertical lines here for signage and things. Kind of want to connect those two shapes, but that's okay. I want to add a more defined figure over here. I think, again, you know, I like to keep it abstract, but it's very abstract over here right now. I'm going to add one figure that's very, very recognizable, and then that'll kind of help give the impression that, oh, the other things over there are also people. Oh. Connect a couple of shadows over there. Okay, I think that looks nice. Let's darken this face a little bit. Maybe put a little hair. Something like that. Maybe one more well-defined figure over here. I gotta define one more of them. For some reason, it's just not reading that well. I'll take a paper towel. I'm gonna dab this figure. Actually, maybe I could just kind of, yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna come back in here. Add those legs. Put a little face. Put a little cobalt blue. All right, I think that looks better. All right, what's next? What's next? Just maybe want to darken that roof line a little bit. I think we're getting close here. I think I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to add our gouache highlights, add a few more details, and we will be done. All right, we're back. So let's go ahead and add our final details. I wanted to, as I often like to, I wanted to add some chimneys on this roof here. I just think it always is such a nice, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I like to do this. It's just such an easy little effect. All right. Just a few things here and there. Maybe just darken up the very tops of those windows there. And I gotta say, I think these buildings got they got a little too dark, I think. I really want the, oops, I'm just going to grab some pure orange just to add some interest to that. I'll do the same thing over here. This one's kind of lacking. That's alright though. I always want to have my subjects typically a bit heavier in pigment. It really helps get that contrast that we're looking for between the buildings in the back and what's kind of most important to us up front here. I'm going to try to darken our figures a little bit, just to make sure they're, you know, keeping the viewer bit more interested. I'm going to add a little abstract something there. Yeah, these folks over here could use some work. I'll probably talk about that more at the end, you know, what we could have done a little bit better. Pull some lines through there. That's fine. All right, let's darken up some of these shadows, though. Okay. Did want to darken this up just a touch down here. Kind of let that broken. All right, that looks okay. What next? What next? Maybe some poles running down the sides there. Nah. And again, I'm just looking for places where I can kind of put a little bit of that dark paint to give an overall, just a stronger impression. Right now I can tell you that's going to be the biggest weakness of this painting, is that a lot of it is in this middle tone, right? If I look at the body of this building and this trolley, they're different colors, but the tones are so similar. And the tones are what help bring out interest. For example, if you look at this roof compared to this building, these are two very different tones. The shadow is much darker than the lightness here. And that contrast is what our eyes pick up on and depict as shapes. If you look at this trolley outlined by this building, they're different colors, but not really different tones. And I think I may have gotten this building a bit too dark, and because with watercolor we're somewhat limited in our range of light to dark just because of the medium is so watery. I think I may have gotten this a bit too dark and ran out of room to make this even darker. So definitely could have done a little better there, but let's grab our gouache so we can add our highlights. And I think we will be done for the day. Okay. I'm just loading up a small brush here. Let's add some few highlights. Now in those two figures, it's not going to make much of a difference because their background is already light. It really helps when the background is a bit darker or you've got some dark shapes jumping in and out. And I'll put a little something there. I think those trolleys have kind of like a, you know, light or something on the top of them. And I'm going to add a few flecks of white through here just to break it up a little bit more. Maybe there's a sign or something on the top there. I don't know. Okay. All right, I think we're about good. I'm going to give this gentleman a white shirt here and just pull that down. Okay. All right, I think we're about done here. So I'm going to sign this and then we're going to talk about it. Always fun to sign your work. That, I think, had a big chunk of paint in it. Okay. So, let's talk about what we did well and what we didn't do so well. Give him a tie. So, off the bat, I'm not too happy with this painting, if I'm going to be totally honest. I think it's one of the less intriguing paintings on my channel so far, but I think it's important to still put up just to show that we can always improve what we're working on. And who knows, somebody out there might think this is the best painting ever. Art's funny like that. I'm not particularly pleased with it, but you know, I've certainly painted worse, that's for sure. Where could I have improved? I would have liked to see, I think I would have liked to bring behind these two figures, I would have liked to bring this dark down further and then had the figures sort of over the top of it, where I could have used that white gouache to cut them out. I think it would have made it a little bit more interesting. I also would have liked to clean this up a little bit over here. It's a bit too abstract. You can still tell what it is, but it's a little sloppy, I think. I think the trams are fine. I think they would have looked a lot better had I lightened this building a bit here. But, you know, again, overall things I like. I think our buildings in the back look fairly good. I think the spraying of the water helped push them back. I do think these two figures look nice over here. The buildings are interesting. I like this cutout of the roof line. It kind of helps distinguish layers of architecture and buildings. So yeah, there's some good and bad, but definitely things we can work on. So anyways, if you stayed with me to the end, I appreciate it. And if you like what you saw, consider subscribing and remember to keep on painting.